George Kilpatrick, inspiration for the nation, celebrating people we feel good about. We've got somebody we feel good about in the house, Dr. Zina Berry, the president, CEO, and of course, the chief dentist at Berry Good Dental Care is in the house. But she does so much more than that. You know what? I told Dr. Berry, can I call you Zina? I told Dr. Berry that she was recommended to me because she's doing a lot more than just dentistry. And so I wanted to talk to her about that and how she does it and what her philosophy is and why she's got her hand in a lot of little different pots here. So first of all, welcome to the program, Dr. Berry. So good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me this morning, George. It's been a pleasure.
So tell me about your background. How did you become a dentist? Where'd you go to school and all of that?
Sure. So I'll take you through this little journey. I'm from Miami, Florida, and I decided that I wanted to go to an African-American college. And when I was in 11th grade, I actually applied to Fisk University, and I was able to get in with the help of my counselors and things in high school because, as you know, we weren't prepared. You didn't know anything about SATs, and all of a sudden, rapid fire, you got to be ready to go. So did all of that. I was admitted into Fisk University, which is in Nashville, Tennessee. And then from there, my purpose of going to Fisk is that Meharry Medical College, the School of Dentistry, is right across the street, literally.
Literally, okay.
Literally, walk right across Jefferson Street. You're right on the campus of Meharry. And so I applied to Meharry while I was at Fisk and got in my junior year. And then you would go to got into Meharry my junior year. And if you did it that way, you would automatically get your senior year credited to you and you would graduate with both degrees. Well, I chickened out and decided to go and graduate first at Fisk and then go to Meharry. So I finished out Fisk and got a BA, Bachelor of Science degree, in chemistry. And then I went on to Meharry. I went to Meharry pregnant with my son and actually had him during my semester and had to continue to go to class. So that was the caveat that I remembered the most my freshman year. I graduated number one in my dental class, and I took my children across the stage with me because they were right there up all night with me to study. So they were my champions and also my reminder of why I needed to get out of school and get to the next step.
So you had two kids you went to school your first year dental school, you were pregnant, and then you had another child while in dental school, and you finished your degree and carried both kids across that.
Yeah.
Should I say that's amazing, or what should I say about that?
I don't know if that's amazing, but I do know when I was called up, to get your degree and stuff, and you get your yellow cord, your honors cord. I had Danielle and Michael in both of my hands and dragged them along. So I think Michael was 2, Danielle was 3. So yeah, it was.
Where'd you get that from? What do you call it? 4 to 2. Where did you get it from?
My mother and my parents really taught me a lot of grit. You need to get after, get underneath it. And then also my parents, in particular, my mother was a real reminder that what you gonna do after high school? Because you can't stay here.
Okay. So. See, she was one of them old school parents. Yeah. Where did I go wrong?
And I was the youngest of 3, and I knew she meant business. There's no doubt. Did
the others get a pass?
Oh no, they're older, so they were out before I was. So that's why I knew she meant business.
Yeah,
definitely.
I'm intrigued by the fact that you're from Miami because, I think Judge Langston McKinney's from Miami as well.
Yes.
And it's typically cities like that. Miami, LA, a lot of people are from other places, but you actually born and raised. What part of Miami did you grow up?
So I grew up in what's called Miami Gardens. When I grew up, it was Carroll City. So I went to the first bicentennial integrated high school in that area called American Senior High School. So it was fun. I definitely, what would I know? I don't know anything different. So I had a block of kids that I played basketball. I did what, normal kids do. And just staying out of trouble, it was real easy because you had parents that held you accountable. Mm-hmm. Street lights came on, you had to be in the house.
Same thing. Right.
Yeah.
Street lights.
Yeah, street lights.
So you traded the warmth and comfort of Miami Gardens after going through Nashville to Syracuse. So you arrived in Syracuse, and did you start your practice right away, or did you do something before that?
Actually, I was recruited here by Dr. Ruben Coart.
Of course you were. That's what I was waiting to hear. like, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Who wasn't?
yeah,
Right?
yeah.
Let's check off the list. Who was not recruited by
Right.
Dr. Ruben Coart, right?
Right. I was recruited by him. Actually, I was at a health center down in Chattanooga, Tennessee, working, and I met him as a consultant, actually, and he was like, "Oh, I have a position for you, and you can come right on up." So I took the opportunity. In 1998, I moved to Syracuse. My kids here. I moved in July, which was very, very nice and was beautiful. And then that winter hit, and I thought I would die.
Right.
So it was pretty interesting. But yeah, I worked for the Syracuse Community Health Center. I was the chief of dental services there. I actually took the place of my colleague that was also a Meharry graduate, Dr. Fred Gilbo, and walked in his shoes, which was very nice because I had no idea the amount of lineage was already laid out for me. That was easy for me to pick up the crumbs and keep on moving.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Again, Dr. Ruben Coart, for those who don't know, obviously the former president, CEO of the Syracuse Community Health Center, now called Syracuse Community Health. But so many, I want to say Black doctors in particular, that have been recruited to Syracuse, Black dentists, if you will, and doctors too, for that matter,
right?
Have sort of a legacy that begins at the Syracuse Community Health Center. What about that do you think is such a fertile ground for so many of you who then go on to do private practice? Many of you.
Well, I think that the thing that attracts you the most is, one, you are looking for an avenue to help you with the debt management. When you're coming out of dental school is so key to everything you do in life. And you come out with a lot of debt. Dental school is very expensive. We had to buy our own instruments and our own equipment on top of paying for the education. So you're looking for an avenue that can help you with that. That's number one. Number two, you don't have any real doors open to you so that you can just go in and join a private practice. It's not like we have this window of dentists out here that can just pull your hand up and say, "Come on, I have a position for you." So a lot of us look for those student loan repayment programs, and they're at the health centers, and the health centers are there so that you can work to help treat underserved populations that normally wouldn't have access to dental. And at the same time, they give you a certain amount of money that you pay back on your student loans as you give that time. So like for 2 years, they'll give you $25,000. And for somebody that has $100,000 in debt coming out of dental school, that's real attractive to get that debt management down so that you're not so anchored through a financial restraint in order to be prosperous in your career.
Was it hard to then make the leap to start your own practice, or you always knew you were going to do that?
I did know I was always going to do that. I always wanted to be in private practice. I wanted to be able to treat my patients the way I wanted to set it up as a framework. So yes, I was very intrigued from the very beginning. That's what I wanted to do. I just didn't know how to do it when I first got out. So, working at the health center helped me to hone my clinical skills, and at the same time, figure out what was the next landing pad for me. So I did a lot of things at the health center that, traditionally weren't done in dentistry. So I like doing extractions. I like doing root canals. I like doing all of these things. And those weren't normal processes at the health center on a daily basis, which I made it known that that's what I wanted to do. So, Dr. Coart and I would go back and forth a little bit, but he was like, "Well, if you can get it done," he actually challenged me. "You got to get it done in a certain amount of time. It has to be efficient and you have to be quality oriented." So if I check off those boxes, and then I can do this work, right? And so he said yes, but I don't think he thought I could complete it and accomplish it, and I did. So we both had a good journey with that.
Yeah, and he was also a trained dentist as well. So
yes, he was.
in some ways, that was also very challenging, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because I had not only do I have to prove it to the president that I work for. Oh
Right,
yeah, but he's a dentist too, so he could look at that X-ray, at the
right,
same
right.
time.
So, but
So
hold up,
yeah,
wait a minute.
yeah.
Uh, so you've been in private practice for how long now?
25 years.
25 years. Wow.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and not only do you do, full service practice, but you also I understand that you also train other dentists and other practitioners. In a sense, you're sort of a mini health center. Talk about that. From what
Well,
I understand.
right. Well, along this journey of opening a business and running a business, you soon realize that scaling the practice is something that the next step needs to be taken. Otherwise, you kind of get swallowed up. So scaling that practice means that I have to hire now, train, and try to put in place another dentist. So the entire shoulder of the operation isn't lying just at your feet.
Mhm.
So bringing a dentist in, onboarding them, training them, and getting them, dialed in, if you will, into private practice is no small feat. That is the biggest challenge. It's not easy. Professionals are professionals, and so sometimes they are restricted in some of the things they would like to try, what they would want to expand. So a lot of times you're a parent, you're a counselor, you're a teacher, you're a friend, you're all of those things. So it's a delicate walk in order to master that. And I haven't always felt like that's been something that's been a great attribute of mine. I've had to learn that. I've had to mature. I've had to gain some understanding of how to interact with people and be patient at their process and their journey because
Yeah.
I'm impatient.
uh, how many people have you trained to go on to do their own thing?
I think I've trained about 4 dentists now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you learned a lot along the way, right?
There's been so many. It's been good lessons, and there's been things that I will always take with me and I will cherish forever. Sometimes it doesn't end well, but that is the price of business. And so, and what I mean by that is the relationship, it changes because they go on to do something else, or it didn't work out the way you thought it would.
Certainly, certainly. And it's not just dentistry. So let's talk about, I was told to ask you about the E-myth. What is the E-myth?
The E-myth talks about a story where just because you love to do something doesn't mean you can go open up a business and do that well as well. So you may be a great donut maker and you may love taking care and making donuts, but running a business and opening a business to sell those donuts is a whole different journey. So just because you like donuts and then leaping into running a business, you find that you're going to have to let go. You're going to have to create systems, and you're going to have to trust people and train them to do some parts to that so you can get back to the love of making that donut. So there's a lot of steps that need to be taken, and a lot of those steps aren't taken because it takes a lot of discipline, understanding. You got to put the right people in place on the right place in the bus and driving in the right direction. And those things take time. They don't just fall right out the sky.
And so what would be the things that you would say most, so in other words, just because you love something, you're not, doesn't mean you can do that as a business. So
Right.
if I love something and I want to do it in business, what would you say are the key things? You talked about focus, you talked about discipline. Are there other things that you have to consider in order to explode the E-myth?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So first and foremost, discipline is number one. When you discipline yourself in order to become a student, and you're going to be a student for life and you run a business, you have to understand that running a business is almost like, as one of my friends have explained to me before, it's like jumping off a mountain. You're an eagle and you jump off the mountain, right? And you learn to fly as you go down, because you're going to fall. You're going to immediately take a launch right down. And then as you're launching, you don't want to hit the ground. So you start figuring out feathering, and you're going to start flying, and you're going to start flying. Well, those elementary steps are those things that you need to learn, and you need to be disciplined, and you need to get an accountant. You need to get a lawyer. You need to build systems. You need to trust people. And as you do that, those feathers start to fly, and then they start to unify. And then all of a sudden, when it finally happens, you probably won't even realize you start to soar. And when you soar, you thrive. And then you land in the field of success. So it's a journey in itself.
Do you see yourself? I mean, I think of black women in business. Is that how you see yourself? Do you see yourself as a woman in business? How do you see it?
I see myself as a person in business. I am sometimes reminded that I am a female in business, and I am sometimes reminded that I'm an African American female in business. And I have to constantly center myself to say, hey, that's maybe what you see, but this is what I'm bringing to the table, regardless of gender and color. I am an entrepreneur, and I'm here to stay.
When did you decide that, we're talking with Dr. Zina Berry, Very Good Dental Care, University Avenue in Syracuse, New York. When you talk about, when did you decide, okay, I've got this dental practice, I think I'm good. There's some other things that I want to invest in. There's some other thing, and I'm going to get to some of those other things. So when did you decide that you were going to do that?
Well, I think it was after my first 10 years of practice. I took some courses. This is, like I said, it's been a journey. So one of the most pivotal courses that I took was the E200, which is given by Syracuse University. I think it was funded by the Obama administration in regards of getting local cities involved with trying to make sure that they get a fast track MBA program to business owners. So you had to have a certain level of revenues at that point and a certain level of number of employees. And then you were selected to be in a part of this group. And there's about 20 of us, and we're in different industries. And that's when I started to learn about scaling your business and getting to the next step. And that was back in 2011. That's where I realized that I needed to start really doing things differently. It taught me to not work in the business as much as work on the business. So starting to look down into the business and say, hey, how are we doing with patients, and are they happy with us? How do we figure that out? Send a survey, try to figure out exactly where you are. Search engine Google optimization. Oh, that was a whole different world. Social media, marketing. So there's different prongs and all of these things that go into it. Once I started to understand that, and I rewrote a business plan and start acting that out, one of the first things I needed to do was to hire a dentist. Once I did that, and I was able to then, hey, I don't have to oversee all of this anymore. Now I can expand and do other things. So I decided that I wanted to run another business, because dentistry, although it was very satisfying for me, I had entrepreneurial ideas that I wanted to play out, and I wanted to see if I can be successful in both arenas. And I ventured out and I did it.
All right. So what are some of the other ventures that you are involved in?
So one of the things I saw was Painting with a Twist. And it's a studio where you can come in and be taught how to paint a 2-hour painting, 3-hour painting, and you get to drink along with it, which would be a hard cider, wine, or beer. And it's fun because it takes you out of your element for a minute. It was brand new. The idea and the concept was. It turned out to be more of a ladies' thing than it was for a male. The males would be kind of harnessed along, if you will, but usually it was the females that like to come and party. And so it's great because the experience was enriching, because they got to go home with a piece. But the memory of being able to share that in that group and having that etched in time was important. So being able to offer that kind of experience was great. And there was a system already out there, which I love systems. That's the one thing that I love. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, I'm going to buy into this franchise and I'm going to open up one in Syracuse. And so I did that. I was the first one to open up Painting with a Twist in Syracuse. And then 2 years after that, I decided to open another one. And that is still open. It's the one that's in Utica, New Hartford, New York. And we have a studio manager, and she runs it, and she does very well. The other thing that was key for me is I needed to learn how to run a business where I didn't physically work in it. That was the key for me. So I wanted to be profitable at it, but it couldn't involve me actually going in there doing anything other than going in there, looking around and saying, oh, this looks great. But you got to mind the numbers and hire the right people, train them appropriately, and then you go forward. And that takes time too.
Yeah, and so as you're building a dental practice, obviously it is dependent on you, right?
Right. It can't run without all of the financial backing. I had to build it out, obtain a lease. I had to jockey all of those things, put it together, and then put the artists in place, put the systems in place, and then let it go. Turn the keys over, hire a good manager, turn the keys over, and go to work.
Do you think that?
And so in the middle of that, I decided to open another dental practice. And so in Utica and New Hartford in particular, I opened another dental practice. And I did that for 5 years, and I sold that successfully. And then I decided to just come back to Syracuse, to my home practice, which is here on University Avenue, as you mentioned. I recently transitioned that practice into a corporate entity. And so that I wanted to have an exit strategy so that my legacy lived on at the dental practice, but at the same time, I was able to know that the practice would be solidly running going forward, and it didn't depend on Dr. Berry again. So it satisfied those same things.
So you're still practicing, but is it more from a, tell us about what you actually do there now.
Yeah, right. So, it's a DSO, a dental systems organization. So what that means is they pretty much take over the management of the practice. That's it. So you don't have to worry about the taxes, the payroll, people being out on leave or any of those things. I am now responsible for clinical practice and leadership in the practice. So nothing essentially changed other than the fact that the background of the business side of things have changed, which helps me because now I'm not worried about that stuff anymore. I'm able to focus on my clinical skills and my delivery of care, which I love to do. And this is what I wanted. So it's almost like I've gone back to the very beginning of my practice, where you work very hard at trying to get those skill sets down to deliver to patients. Well, now I got them down, so now I'm expanding. So now I'm soaring. I'm loving it because I'm like, I don't have the shoulder of all the financial business responsibility. Now I'm like, yes, I could just do this.
And yet still own it.
Yeah, so it is what's called a doctor-led company. So I'm a stockholder in my own company. And yes, I am still etched and very good as a leader there. It is still very good dental care because they don't change the name. They want everything to remain the same. I now am contracted with my own DSO company in order to perform the things I did before without the management piece.
Wow. So, and you're also, and again, this is also, was it part of when you did your new business plan? Was this part of that, or did you just, okay, this was, yeah.
So when I did that business plan back in 2011 with the E200, you're right. I did decide that I wanted to make sure that I hired dentists to work for me. If I had an opportunity to buy another business, these are the things I would look for. Here's the profit margin I wanted to be at. And then I went forward with those things. So picking up that dental practice just was by chance because it was a friend of mine that knew a practice was available. And that was something that was a no-brainer, so to speak. I know dentistry very well. It's the part about hiring a dentist and getting them to work in your system, which is a little bit more difficult. So yeah, it was great because it allowed me to do my checkoff list. You know what I mean?
Do you, and also I understand you are into Airbnbs.
Yes. Oh yeah, I forgot all about that. So during COVID, you come up with new things. So and when we were out for those couple months, I decided that real estate is another portfolio part of the investment portfolio. And I decided to explore the Adirondacks. So I own a little cabin out in the Adirondacks, and I was like, and I love it. And I was like, you know what? Let me see if I can do an Airbnb with this and see how this goes. Oh my God. I have to turn down people. I get 4 or 5 reservations for the same weekend, and I only would do it every other weekend. I'm a little bit of an OCD person, so I have to make sure it's clean and sanitized and everything. So I have a company that goes in there. So I'll do it twice a month, and I did it for the entire summer. Every time. And the reviews came back well. So, you have to stage it, you have to clean it, you have to make sure the experience is there. And I'm just like, oh, I'm so proud. Because I didn't think I was going to be able to pull it off, but it happened. It worked. So
it just seems like listening to you, it's planning, it's opportunity, but it's strategic in some ways.
Yeah, yes.
Not there's not a lot of whimsy, or is there some whimsy involved as well?
The whimsy part of it is that there's risk involved.
Yeah.
You know, when I purchased the real estate, that wasn't the purpose of why I wanted to buy it. It was just for a luxury, let me get away to the Adirondacks and that experience. But when I realized that, you know, I could actually rent this out when I'm not there and I can do very well, then there's a system out there. Again, there's a system out there.
there's a trend here, right? A pattern here.
Right. Look, a system. If there's a system out there, and I can see how that system is going to work and be profitable, I'm all in. I'm all in. You do have to do your due diligence. Right. You have to negotiate well. You have to make sure that you align yourself with the right professionals to keep that counsel for what you need. So you want to protect yourself as well. You got to build a company so that you're not totally liable. So you want to make sure you have an LLC or corporation of some sort and not do business as yourself, because that's your social security number. So yeah, there's things that you have to learn and you have to shield yourself, but those are risks that you take. Buying the painting with a twist or buying the dental practice or doing anything, there's monies that you got to put out before you ever get anything back. Sure. And going to the bank in the very beginning when I started Very Good Dental Care, that wasn't easy. That as a matter of fact, I couldn't even get a bank loan when I bought the first practice. I ended up going to a loan shark out there in California.
Literally a loan shark, for real.
There was 11% interest.
Wow.
You talking about, and I had 2 kids and single mother, raising them here in Syracuse and no family. Oh, I was fast and furious I was about the business, about getting that loan paid off, because otherwise I would have been in debt forever.
Yeah.
So,
you know, or more than that, but I ain't gonna go there.
No, right, literally. And, you know, and so when I was able to finally get a bank loan, you know, I was like, you know, you had to jump through hoops and understand credit and, you know, things that you're not really aware of. You know, you got to be fast and furious. But let me tell you, the denial of those opportunities existed. When I even bought my building that I'm in right now, that wasn't an easy task either. I actually had to have help from a male to help me negotiate it because he wouldn't take me serious.
Isn't that something?
So yeah,
that's when you're reminded that you're a woman in business, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Or to being turned down for a line of credit. You go into the bank, you have a business, but you can't get a line of credit. And I'm thinking, like, why? You know, well, you're not. Then you start understanding here. There's almost like the level, the ceiling always kind of lifted up more and more. Oh, I have to have a profit margin that's here, or I have to be doing this. And it was good that I'm glad that those things were forced upon me, because in the end, I've learned to be my own bank. I don't need your bank money anymore.
I heard that, sister. Go ahead.
That's what it teaches you. Like, you better get some financial footing here on your own.
There you go. Man, it's inspiring listening to you and knowing that it's all like the satisfaction that you get, but you did what you had to do, right? Yeah, you did what you had to do.
Yes.
And I guess I'll leave us with this. If somebody is thinking about taking that next step of faith or leap or whatever it is, give us some thoughts about how they might go about doing that.
Sure. The first thing you have to do is you need to put your ideas down on paper. You need to have a vision and a mission of what you want. You have to have the end in mind. What do you want to achieve financially and personally? Okay. And so whatever that is, you have to build everything around that. You have to have a vision of what you want, and you have to have a path of how you're going to get there. Getting that path together is the business plan. So you can go in the library, look on the internet, you can look at many resources to look at how to build a business plan. One of my favorite authors that I read a lot of books from is Jim Collins. And one thing that he taught me in reading all of his material is that picking the right people to be on your bus. So here's your bus. Your bus is your business. But now you can't run your business by yourself. You've got to hire people. Okay. But you hire the people and you put them on the bus, right? And you're driving, but they're not in the right seats on the bus. So you're not doing well in business. And you've got to learn how to jockey that, change it, and then get everything out of that system before you go to the next step. And having your checks and balances back to that business plan is important. And having the financial accountability to that is also important. So with that, you got to write your plan down. Then you have to be disciplined enough to go after it.
And I love that you said financial and personal,
Yes.
Because oftentimes it's just the money that we are thinking about and not the lifestyle that you want to associate with it. I think that if I'm understanding that.
You are absolutely right. You gotta have the passion of your why. Yeah. What is your why? Why do you want to do this? And the why, if it's completely a financial piece to it, my suggestion is, why run a business? Why not just go out and buy stocks or mutual funds or anything like that? Because guess what? That's purely money. Mm-hmm. That is risk-taking, is pure money. But if you're actually going to run a business, there needs to be some passion about why do you do it. I love dentistry. Absolutely love it. So, me going in and doing a molar root canal, hey, don't threaten me with a good time. Hey, that's what I'm talking about.
Girl, I appreciate that. Lord. Well, you have definitely empowered us and gave us something to think about. No matter where we sit here, we're not as enthusiastic as you are about those root canals. I'm gonna tell you that much. But whatever floats your boat, we have a different view of that. Okay. But listen, Dr. Zina Berry, thank you so much for the time you spent with us. We learned a lot about you. We learned a lot about, in some ways, you right here, you're hidden in plain view. You're just doing your thing. And we certainly do appreciate you. Very Good Dental Care. Tell us where you're located so people can find out more about you.
Sure. It's Very Good Dental Care, 325 University Avenue. I'm centered right there at the connective corridor at the corner of University and Genesee Street. I have the purple awning. You can't miss it. Wonderful place. Come on in. We're taking new patients. We'd love to see you.
Dr. Zina Berry, thank you so much. Inspiration for the nation.
Thank you, George. I appreciate it. Have a good morning.
Take care.